me is original. I'm a combined effort of everyone I've ever known. This is a famous quote by Chuck Palahniuk, and one that I can't help but relate to. Growing up as a first-generation American in an Indian household, I've morphed my identity many, many times. A struggle that I used to regret, but now inspires me. I've been told who to be and how to live my life, how my roots make my being as a person. And since I grew up the way I did, I had expectations on how I should be from others' perspectives. Since I have the same life as someone like me, I have to be like them, right? This made me question my identity and transform me into someone shallow, empty, and incredibly basic. And even though sometimes I look back on this period of my life and cringe, I took a meaningful lesson out of it, a lesson I hope you will all take too. Let me start off by telling you a little bit about me. In March 2006, my family moved to America from Tamil Nadu, India. It was just my mom, my dad, and my older sister Genevieve. The three of them alone, constantly grappling with new situations and problems. 4 years later, I came along. And let me tell you, growing up was extremely confusing, which growing up as a first-generation American in my family didn't exactly help with. According to the Migration Policy Institute, the population of U.S.-born children is 88%, which is around 12% more than it was in 1990. So I wondered how many kids had been dealing with the same things. Like, one thing I found hard to do was connect with my family. Since I never really had that much of an Indian background, it was hard to bond with them. Like talking to my Indian grandparents, who don't understand English very well. Or movie nights with my family. We would always spend hours trying to find Indian movies with the option of English subtitles, just so I could understand them. Indian stereotypes were a whole other thing. There are so many of them. Between the classic, Indians only care about math in school, and Indian parents only want their kids to become doctors or lawyers. I didn't really pay attention to this at first, but then I soon began to see other Indians flaunting and normalizing these stereotypes. People even put those stereotypes onto me. That itself confused my identity so much that I started forcing myself into them too. That wasn't even the only part of it. While my head was already stuck in a cloud of Indian stereotypes, I also had to face the dreaded younger sibling problems. Okay, yeah, I know a lot of people are already thinking, oh please, the oldest or middle siblings have it the worst. The youngest children are always the bratty ones. And I'm not saying they don't, but think of this from my perspective. Being the youngest child in my family, I've always had the pressure and standard to follow my sister's footsteps, which was not easy. She loved to write poetry, join science bees and math teams, get only A's, and read literally anything known to mankind. I felt completely pressured to be like her, and do pretty much everything she did. And I don't even want to explain how teachers I've had always called me by my sister's name every consecutive year. The point is that the people I've grown up with have always compared me to my sister, or they've encouraged me to be like her. They're right, I thought. I just need to listen to what they say to be the best version of myself and be a true Indian. So I forced myself into it. I started writing stories and poetry like my sister did, and I read more even though I wasn't into it. I joined the same clubs and classes that my sister did, and at the same time believed and followed in the Indian stereotypes. I began to make this my life and got lost. I was just a hollow shell made of skin and hair. My brain, an empty void filled with stereotypes and assumptions of who I was supposed to be. This is what I thought meant being a true Indian. I confused my identity, not to mention my personality. But deep inside the endless jungle of stereotypes infused in my head, and the crowded voices putting standards on me, was curiosity about myself and my real identity, a trait I've had my entire life. I began to ask myself these two questions. Is this who I want to be? Am I even happy like this? The answer was no. I wasn't happy, and I definitely wasn't myself. So I started my journey. I started writing, I tried new hobbies and explored new extracurriculars, clubs, and activities, none of which my sister had tried. I felt more like myself, and I felt free, like a weight had been lifted. I had my own life and my own stories to tell, and I was special to who I was and what my passions were. Karate let me feel strong. Bharatanatyam let me feel closer to my roots. And Tamil class helped me make friends. and get to know all the other Indians and their perspectives. But most of all, exploring myself helped me think about myself as a true Indian. My entire life, I didn't know anything about my culture, or what it was like to grow up in India. But I was wrong about being a true Indian, so I eventually asked myself this question. What's a true American? There's no answer to that question. Or what's a true Asian or a true Hispanic? It's the same answer, there's no such thing. Because it means something different to everyone. Like for me, being an Indian just means being part of my culture and showing pride for my amazing roots. But for someone else, it may mean something different. The point is, all my life, I've tried making myself into other people. I never really appreciated myself as myself. I thought I'm pretty much the same as them, so I might as well be them. But just because people have the same lives, it doesn't mean they have the same experiences. For example, even though I grew up like my sister did, it doesn't mean I'm going to be exactly like her. Or how, even though I'm Indian, it doesn't mean I'm going to be exactly like other Indians. Or that they're going to be like other Indians. And this goes for everyone. You don't need to change your identity based on someone else's perspective of you. You can take people's advice, but you don't have to do whatever they say. Just be yourself, because you're perfect the way you are. So, to summarize, even though I'm so glad to have grown up the way I did, and that I'm part of a wonderful community, I'm also glad to be in my own world, filled with my stories and ideas, and most of all, have my own life. Thank you for listening, and have a great day.